Imagine a world where maps were more like works of art than tools for navigation. A world where the edges of the earth were thought to be guarded by dragons and sea monsters. A world where the location of the Garden of Eden was a hot topic of debate among scholars. This was the Europe of the Middle Ages, a time when Christian geography was a bizarre mix of fantasy and religious dogma. While Europe was lost in a maze of myths, other parts of the world, like China, were making groundbreaking advances in understanding and mapping the earth. This story is about how the Chinese developed their own unique method of cartography, and how their knowledge eventually influenced the rest of the world. In ancient China, the art of map-making was not just a scientific endeavor, but a crucial tool for the vast bureaucracy that governed the empire. The Chinese did not rely on the works of Greek scholars like Eratosthenes, Hipparchus, or Ptolemy. Instead, they developed their own system of map grids, which allowed them to chart the Earth's surface with remarkable accuracy. Unlike the Greeks, who based their cartography on a spherical Earth, the Chinese believed the Earth was flat. However, this flat Earth concept did not hinder their ability to create detailed and accurate maps. The Chinese grid system, which used a rectangular pattern, was a practical solution to the challenge of mapping a vast and varied landscape. This system was not based on the idea of a spherical Earth, but rather on a flat surface. The grid provided a uniform way to measure and describe the Earth's features, making it easier to understand and navigate the land. The Chinese used this system to create maps that were essential for administration, military planning, and even religious purposes. The earliest references to maps in China date back to the Qin dynasty. The Qin emperor, Qin Shi Huang, unified China and established a powerful bureaucracy that required detailed maps to manage the empire's extensive regions. The importance of maps continued to grow during the Han Dynasty, when they became an indispensable tool for the government. The Han Emperor's cartographers were responsible for creating maps that showed the boundaries of different regions, the locations of important landmarks, and the distribution of resources. One of the most significant early Chinese cartographers was Chang Heng. He developed a system of coordinates that allowed him to create detailed maps of the sky and the earth. Chang Heng's work laid the foundation for later Chinese cartography and influenced the development of the rectangular grid system. Another important figure was Fei H. Sui, who was appointed as Minister of Works in A.D. 267 during the Qin Dynasty, 265-420. Fei H. Sui created a detailed 18-sheet map of China that included mountains, lakes, rivers, and other geographical features. His map was drawn to scale and used a rectangular grid to ensure accuracy. The Chinese grid system was not just a scientific tool, but was also inspired by everyday life. The terms used for the grid coordinates, qing and y, were the same words used to describe the warp and weft threads in weaving textiles. This suggests that the idea of a rectangular grid on a map might have been inspired by the way fabric was woven. Another possible origin of the grid system was the diviner's board used in Han times, which used a system of coordinates to represent the cosmos. The early Chinese chessboard, which located pieces by their coordinates, might have also influenced the development of the grid system. By the Tang Dynasty 618-907, Chinese cartography had reached new heights. In 801, a cartographer completed a massive grid map of the entire empire on a scale of 1 inch to 100 li 1/3 of a mile, or 33 1/3 miles. The map measured 30 feet long and 33 feet high, and was so detailed that it even included the roads, paths, and navigable rivers. Maps became so popular that they were found even in the imperial baths. The Chinese continued to refine their grid system, and by the Sung era, 960-1279, they had standardized the practice of placing north at the top of the map. The Mongol conquests of the 13th century brought a wealth of new geographical information to Chinese cartographers, who incorporated this data into their maps. The Mongol style of cartography, which emphasized the grid system, became a new standard. The map itself became a grid, with the names of places and tribes inserted in their proper squares. While European cartographers were still struggling with the idea of a spherical Earth and creating maps based on religious texts, the Chinese were making significant advances in the science of cartography. Their grid system was so advanced that it might have influenced the development of cartography in other parts of the world. For example, the Arab geographer Al-Idrisi, who created a world map in 1150 for Roger II, the Norman king of Sicily, used a grid scheme similar to the one on Chinese maps. This suggests that the long tradition of grid maps in China might have reached the Arabs through the Arab colony at Canton, and the increasing number of Arab travelers to the east. The same faith that led Europeans to create fantastical maps also led them to embark on pilgrimages to the Holy Land. The Star of Bethlehem, which guided the three kings to the birthplace of Jesus, continued to guide countless pilgrims in later centuries. Pilgrimage became a Christian institution, and the paths of faith became paths of discovery. Within a century after the death of Jesus, some brave believers were already journeying to Jerusalem to walk the land where their Savior had walked. Emperor Constantine's conversion to Christianity in the 4th century and the construction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem further fueled the pilgrimage movement. The learned Saint Jerome settled in a monastery in Bethlehem and instructed pilgrims who visited the holy places. By the early 5th century, there were 200 monasteries and pilgrim hospices near Jerusalem. The pilgrim carrying a staff and wearing a broad, flat-crowned hat became a common sight in medieval Europe. The Latin word peregrinatio came to mean any wandering, and peregrinus for pilgrim became a synonym for stranger. The decline of the Western Roman Empire and the rise of pirates, vandals, and other threats made the pilgrim's journey difficult and dangerous. The Arab conquests around the Mediterranean, the rise of Islam, and the influx of Muslim pilgrims to Jerusalem brought a new level of conflict. When the Caliph Omar entered a surrendered Jerusalem in 638, he set the stage for a long and bitter battle for the holy places. The great age of Christian pilgrimage began in the 10th century, and despite the challenges, the stream of pilgrims continued to grow. As the Holy Land became less accessible, pious Christians found new holy sites closer to home. Santiago de Compostela in northwestern Spain became a popular destination after the discovery of the body of St. James in the 9th century. Rome, the threshold of the apostles, remained the greatest magnet for pilgrims. The Venerable Bede reported that Britons from all walks of life journeyed to Rome to visit the tombs of the apostles and seek a warmer welcome from the saints in heaven. The monks of Cluny organized to assist pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. Young Scandinavians journeyed from Iceland, Norway, and Denmark, served in the Emperor's Varangian Guard in Constantinople, and then continued on to Jerusalem before returning home. The pilgrimage movement reached its peak in the 11th century, but the Seljuk Sultan Alp Arslan's conquest of Asia Minor in 1071 posed a new threat to Christian pilgrims and Eastern Christianity. Pope Urban II saw an opportunity to unite the churches of East and West, and to redeem the holy places. At the Council of Clermont in 1095, he delivered a powerful speech that transformed the pilgrimage movement into a crusade. He called on all Christians to take up arms, promising them remission of sins and eternal glory in heaven. The crusade was to be a communal pilgrimage, a passagem generale, and the White Cross was to be their symbol. The First Crusade was launched in 1096, and the Crusaders set out to reclaim the Holy Land. The Crusades were a chaotic and often violent movement, but they also opened up new paths of discovery. The Crusaders encountered different cultures, learned new ideas, and brought back knowledge that would eventually help transform European society. The Chinese, with their advanced cartography, played a role in this transformation. Their grid system might have influenced the development of cartography in the Arab world, and through the Arabs in Europe. The exchange of knowledge between the East and the West during this time was a crucial step in the advancement of human understanding. In the end, the story of Chinese cartography and the Crusades is a reminder of how different cultures can contribute to the same goal. While the Europeans were lost in a maze of myths, the Chinese were making practical and scientific advances. When the two worlds eventually met, the exchange of ideas helped to end the Great Interruption and set the stage for a new era of discovery and knowledge.